Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pocket Coach. My name is Anthony Crain, and today I will be introducing you to the Big Picture in Safe 6.0. If you've seen our Intro to Safe video for 5.1, this is the same video. We're just going to teach you the architecture so that this picture doesn't scare you. Because when I first saw this picture, it scared me. And now I love it and I get it. And this video will get you by the end of it to feel like, oh, I get this now. Like it doesn't scare me anymore. So if you've seen the 5.1 video, you don't have to watch this one also, unless you really like hanging out with me. But next week, we are doing a video that will do the delta between 5.1 and 6.0. I'm really excited about that video. We have a unique way of doing it. So I can't wait for you to see that one. So meantime, if you're new to the Big Picture 6.0, stick around. And by the time we're done, this picture will not scare you. Now, I am on the scaleadaptiveframework.com website. This is freely available. When you come here, you'll see this beautiful, scary picture. Now, you'll see that there's safe training here. I'm not trying to replace training. There's a 2-day training class. The best one to take right out of the gate is probably leading safe if you really want to understand this model. But this hopefully will give that a boost. And then there you go. So we're not trying to replace that, but we think this will give you a little head start. Okay, so architecture. If you look at this picture, it at first is overwhelming until you realize there are just some areas. And when you see the areas, you start to get a little less apprehensive. So first off, the first thing I saw was there's a big white area. It drew my eye right away, a big old white area, okay? And then there's stuff around the big white area. To the left of the big white area, it's all people. So these are the roles that you need to achieve whatever the heck this is in the big white area, okay? On the right, these are things that aren't in the white area. They're kind of floating over here. They call this a spanning palette, okay? And that's because it spans layers. In other words, these icons might happen most in this area, but these kind of could happen anywhere. So they float in the spanning palette. Okay, so that's the left and the right. At the top, I see business agility. That's the goal. At the bottom, I see this other green bar. This is the foundation layer. Without this, none of the rest of it works. Okay, that's why you see things like lean agile leadership and continuous learning culture hanging out on the sides there. Okay, so this bottom thing is the foundation that supports it all. Across the top, we see some tabs. This will actually minimize what you see. Right now I'm on full, so you see everything. But if you're like, oh, I only want the essential stuff, you click on that and you see less. Oh, that's nice. Less is good. In fact, we're going to leverage the idea of less is good. Large solution shows you more. It shows you some extra stuff. Portfolio shows you a different set of extra stuff, and full shows you all the stuff, right? So by the time we're done, that'll all be clear. Finally, down the side here and on the corners, you see these circles. These circles, I love these circles. They are what I think of as merit badges, like in the scouts, right? You can earn a badge for being able to start a fire. I don't know. I never was a scout, but they're like your merit badges, except for these badges are for your entire portfolio, for your entire organization. And so they're different competencies, and that's what they're called. They're different competencies that your organization can pursue. Okay. So by the time we're done, you will understand the white part, the gray parts, the top, the bottom, the tabs up here, and the 7 competencies. It'll all make sense. Okay, that's my commitment. So let's get into it. Now, to do this, I've created this little PowerPoint deck, and it's going to transcribe my words here on the bottom. That's fun. In the meantime, though, this here is a little slide deck we're using to build the big pictures little by little so that it's not quite so scary. And by the time we're done, it'll feel good. Okay. So right now, all you can see is the different configurations, and I'm going to hit page down, and we're going to hide everything else except for the essential. Okay. So what the heck is essential? Essential is the bottom third of safe. If we go back to this big picture here, notice that the big white has been split into 3 areas: essential, large solution, and portfolio. Okay, so essential is for 50 to 125 people working together, as opposed to Scrum. Scrum is for is 2 pizzas, right? A 2 pizza team, you probably heard that. 2 small team, 10 people or less, about 10 people, all different ways to say it. That's this kind of stuff down here. The essential layer is 50 to 125. Large solution is if you have thousands of people trying to build a single solution together. And portfolio is how we make sure we're investing in the right thing. So the big white area is also split into 3 areas. And if I'm navigating someone, I'll be like, hey, look for lean UX. It's in the essential layer. And you're like, oh, okay, essential layer is the bottom layer. Lean UX. Oh, there it is. Okay. So that's how we navigate people when we're doing doing remote collaboration. We tell them what layer, essential, large solution, portfolio, or you might say over in the roles or in the spanning palette, right? So we try to use the vocabulary to help people find stuff. All right, so back to this. So we've hidden everything else, and all we have now is the essential layer. The first thing you should notice is that there are only 2 competencies now. There was 7 in the big picture. So what this means is when you pursue the essential layer of SAFe, you are pursuing 2 of those merit badges. What are those merit badges? The first one is team and technical agility. So what you're going to see here are the roles, the assets, the thinking that it takes to master team level agile. In other words, like Scrum stuff, and technical agile, like DevOps stuff, like cloud stuff, right? So when you pursue team and technical agility, you're pursuing the bottom. And if you're like, hey, our organization has that mastered, then we're good to go. What's cool is each of these has an assessment behind it where there's one assessment that does all 7 at once, so you can see which one you're weakest in, or there's assessments for each one, so you can see, oh, for this one, where am I weakest? And then I can shore that up. So if you think you already got this nailed, try taking the assessment and see where you score. And if you're good to go pursue a different badge, right? But bottom line, all this stuff down here in the bottom half of Essential is trying to help you achieve the team and technical agility badge. In addition, the top half of this is more geared toward helping you achieve the Agile Product Delivery badge. Now, I'm making it very clear, but the truth is there's blend, right? Each of these competencies help other competencies. So there's connections between them, there's thinking between them, but to get your brain started, it's nice to think of it as a little bit more crisp, even though there is bleed. Okay, so Agile Product Delivery is the ability to get product out the door faster, right? We've got teams who say they're doing Agile, but they're still doing waterfall. They still release once a quarter. This is the ability to continuously release stuff. So what you're going to see here are the roles you need and the skills you need and the competencies you need in order to develop your solution in a flow instead of a big bang, but little bit, even a brand new difficult solution, little bit. That's a very tough skill. So when you're able to do that, now you're mastering Agile Product Delivery. Okay, so 2 badges covered. Then that's the bottom layer. Now I could go into details about every one of these icons, but that would take too long. So take the Leading SAFe class and they'll sell you a lot more of that stuff. Okay, let's bring in the next layer, large solution. So large solution brings in a 3rd competency, enterprise solution delivery. And notice a little XL on the side of this guy. In other words, really big solutions. So here's the deal. Regular Scrum works for 10 people. This Agile Product Delivery, this whole idea of an Agile release train and art, it allows you to work from 50 to 125 people and still collaborate and still be agile. Very tricky to do because you want to stay agile and you want to be pivoting when you need to pivot, but you also have to coordinate, right? And so that's what that Agile Product Delivery is going to help you master, is that coordination across up to 125 people, okay, without losing agility. Now, those 125 people are working on a set of products together. So they have to help each other. That's why. If they're not helping each other, then don't put them on in an art together. Well, if we go to the large solution, and so the solution train is what they call this thing. So you go to the solution train, the large solution layer. Now we're talking thousands of people who have to work together. So think mission to Mars, right? So if we're going to Mars, we might need 1,000 people to get there. Those people need to understand each other. Those people need to plan together in some way, but you can't easily do that with 1,000 people. And yet if they don't, they're going to all go off in different directions. This layer is full of cool ideas to help thousands of people stay agile and yet stay synchronized, stay coordinated, understand each other. So a very exciting layer. Most of my clients don't need this layer. Most of my clients don't need to worry about thousands of people at a time, right? But when they do, we can bring that out, okay? All right, the next layer up adds a 4th competency now, lean portfolio management as a competency, okay? So this layer is called the portfolio layer. And it introduces a whole bunch of assets to help you master portfolio. What does that even mean? Knowing that you're investing in the right things, knowing when to turn away from a failing investment, right? So MVP thinking, pivot or persevere thinking, the large initiatives that take many quarters to solve, right? This is the purview of the lean portfolio management competency and the portfolio layer. Okay, so there's lots of cool goodies in here to help you do that better. And of course, new roles are coming in as we add these competencies to help you achieve those things. All right, so 3 layers down. Now, this is sort of like a layer, enterprise and government. This is the actual organization that you belong to. And so you'll notice here it has something, this whole thing, this portfolio starts with what are called strategic themes. And honestly, everything else connects back to these strategic themes. If you look, there's blue and red icons all over the place here. The blue icon, story, feature, capability, epic, represents business value being delivered. So when I close an epic, when I close a capability, when I close a feature or a story, someone should be like, I'll give you a trophy for that. That's amazing. I can do something. The red objects, these are the things that don't deliver direct value, but are necessary to deliver the blue value, the real value. And so in a lot of teams, they don't distinguish that. So I can't tell the difference between them closing work that's, just helping with risk versus delivering value. You've lost that. The blue and red here allows me to very quickly visualize how much blue value, how much red risk reduction am I working on. Okay. So all of this, the blues, and the reds, they tie back to strategic themes. What is a strategic theme? It's something the company is trying to do, and the whole portfolio should be thinking about. So the enterprise is what comes up with those themes. And guess what? This is one portfolio. Your enterprise, if it was big enough, might have 4 or 5 portfolios of completely unique people doing completely unique things. They don't really work on stuff together. They have entirely separate portfolios. You can do that in SAFe. But in all cases, the enterprise comes up with strategies and communicates those into the portfolios using these strategic themes. You can also do SAFe for the government, and that's why that's up here, and things change a little bit. But whether you're enterprise or government, that's where all the, what are we really supposed to be working on? How are we really going to be the big, visionary pictures? It's all coming from the enterprise. And so there's some great practices here. And also, if you click on these icons, you'll see some really neat stuff inside of there to help you master things like strategic thinking. All right, what's next? Now, the bottom. So a lot of people lead with the bottom. I like to end with the bottom here because without this bottom part, none of the above stuff works. That's why people like to lead with it. Without this, doesn't work. But the top stuff is easier to get your brain around. The bottom stuff is necessary to become agile, to become lean, to become a lean, agile organization. You must implement this bottom bar, okay? So the competency we get here, our 5th competency now, is lean, agile leadership. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, fine. Lean, agile leadership. So if your people are like, I'm a leader, you're like, that's great, but are you a lean leader? Are you an agile leader? Are you a lean, agile leader? And they're like, I think so. Well, that's not good enough. So what we have here is a lean, agile mindset, the SAFe core values, and the SAFe principles. The lean, agile leaders, they need to learn these 3 things, and they should be able to explain them. They should be able to teach them. They should be passionate about them. One of the things I love to do is have my leaders create a big, visible, agile thing, a BVAT. It's kind of like a BVIR if you're familiar with that, big visible information radiator. It's old agile speak. BVAT is a big, visible, agile thing that you're championing as a leader. And that BVAT, honestly, should tie to one of these items here. It should tie to the lean, agile mindset, the core value, a SAFe principle, right? So if you open those articles and you study them, the next thing I ask you to do is pick one and create a big, visible, exciting thing about it. Here's an example. I had a leader who did a stand-up meeting every day. His whole team was on one floor of a building, and they had low walls. So when you stood, you could see everyone. There's like 100 people on that floor. And they would stand up and they would do a stand-up together once a week. Now, is that really a stand-up meeting? No. But did he call it a stand-up meeting? Did they cover stuff? Was anybody allowed to speak? Did they find it exciting? Yes. So still a big, visible, agile thing because he's embracing the vocabulary, embracing the spirit of collaboration, et cetera. That's an example. So next competency is continuous learning culture. The other half of this foundational layer down here. You cannot become a lean, agile company if you do not have a continuous learning culture. No one's going to learn any of this stuff. There's a lot of learning to be done. There's a lot of training classes available. There's a lot of articles to read. If you don't have a continuous learning culture, no one has time for that. They're going to say, I don't have time. I'm too busy. There's no capacity for learning. And that's not an organization that's going to achieve business agility. Now, notice the things that came in on the green bar, the implementation roadmap and SPCs. So the implementation roadmap is literally a step-by-step process on how to take SAFe and implement it into a difficult organization. So it's a wonderful little guide to say, first do this, then do that. Of course, things don't always go as planned, but it's a great starter plan. Wonderful. And then you see SPCs. That's what I am. I was going to say a SAFe program consultant, but that's the old vocabulary. I'm still learning my SAFe 6. So I'm a SAFe practice consultant. And it's my job to help people understand this whole model. And my training included 2 days worth of understanding all the parts of this roadmap, right? 2 days worth of understanding this whole picture and how to teach it. and then 2 days on how to navigate this roadmap. So it was really, and then the exam was incredibly difficult. Bottom line, though, you cannot achieve this without a continuous learning culture. And interestingly, the last step here called accelerate, they added that not too long ago, and I love that name, accelerate. It's when you think you're done. It's like, no, you're done with the basic roadmap. Now you must create the advanced roadmap yourselves. Like, you have the skills, you have the power. You must create the advanced roadmap. That's what accelerate's all about. And continuous learning culture reappears in accelerate as in force. If you haven't gotten that mastered, you're never going to get through accelerate without it. So really like that joining of continuous learning culture with the implementation roadmap. All right, after that, what is next? Okay, next thing comes business agility. So I mentioned before, you cannot achieve business agility unless you implement the portfolio layer of SAFe. It's the only layer that really enables this up here. You can notice that there is a value stream. And by the way, do you notice there's a value stream everywhere? The value stream is this little set of chevrons, these little signs pointing to the right there, little chevron. So this represents a value stream, and the train are the people. So what's a value stream? It's simply the steps it takes to deliver a product. Okay, so every product or to improve a product, right? So what does it take to improve that product? If you're a development team, you might have a development value stream that shows the development steps to deliver a product. If you are a company, you might have steps it takes to bring a product to market. That might be very different than a development value stream. They call those operational value streams, okay? So those are the steps it takes to bring a product to life bigger than software, okay? But notice that in this picture here, the train is on top of that chevron. The train is the people. The chevron is the steps it takes to get there. It's your line. It's your conveyor belt, okay? When you look at a large solution, check it out. They have, again, the conveyor belt of steps, the value stream. But in this case, they show multiple arts. Why? Because that's how you're going to organize thousands of people, okay? If you look at the portfolio layer, check it out. They have two of these value streams, different value streams. That's how you coordinate. That's how you decide where to spend your money, how you fund your value streams, right? If you have 3 products, you can't spend all your money on one. You got to split your money up, but maybe one quarter, you split it up differently than another quarter, right? So in the portfolio, you look at your products and how to fund them. That's why you see multiple value streams, and that's why you see multiple solutions out here. Well, notice the business agility here, it has a value stream behind it now as well. That's new in 6.0. And notice that there's a value stream over here as well. So these are the development value streams, the steps it takes to bring software or hardware or integrated systems together. The operational value stream up here, this is how the business operates. And we should be supporting that business. We either automate the whole business or automate a step in the business, but every system we build is used by that business. And this tells us where our systems are used. Very exciting. Okay. So if it's a patient care system, from patient intake to aftercare, whatever, and all the medical procedures happen in between, that could be your steps. The business agility value stream, however, is what does it take to pivot when opportunity strikes or when COVID disrupts, right? So these are the very steps the business itself must take in order to thrive in a digital age, is the way they put it in the training. In order to navigate change as a business, these are the steps it takes to navigate that change. Very exciting. Okay, so that's business agility. And I think, there's one last thing, the spanning palette. Okay, so on the right, remember we talked about the spanning palette? Now, I only brought in 3 items, the vision, the roadmap, and the system team. These 3 parts of the spanning palette apply to all layers, always. So if you only look at essential, you'll only see these 3. When you bring in large solution or portfolio, only then will you see the additional spanning palette items. So even the spanning palette will disappear. When you go to essential, only 3 items will show. So again, each one of these, they tend to help multiple layers. Like I said, some of them help all 3 layers. Some of them are more applicable to the top 2. But even then, it's not always the case. Like OKRs, for example, you might still have OKRs at the team level. So while it's less, they're just trying to, simplify things for you. That doesn't mean you can't use OKRs at the essential level. It just means of all the fish to fry, of all the battles to fight, maybe that's not your first one. Okay. All right. So that is basically the big picture, except the overview. So we now have 7 competencies. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are tied to the layers. These 2 are tied to the bar at the bottom. The last thing to cover is the overview. And notice it's the competencies again, but this time they've got the customer at the center, because that is the center of the world of a lean agile team, of a business agility team. But floating around it are all 7 of those competencies we just covered. Lean agile leadership is still at the very bottom. Up the left side here, you can see team and technical agility, agile product delivery, and essential enterprise solution delivery. These are your delivery, like, delivering value, delivering product kind of competencies. Up the right side, these are the more soft skills, right? We have portfolio stuff, how to fund. Organizational agility, this is bringing agile to other parts of the organization, HR, but also bringing agile to your strategies, right? And then down here, we have continuous learning. We said that that's part of the foundation layer now. And without that learning culture, you're not going to achieve business agility. Notice that each of these 7 competencies has 3 dimensions in them. And so 7 times 3, if you do your math, that's 21 dimensions. And so when I said that there's those assessments, the assessments will align you to these different dimensions so that you know which dimension you might want to focus on more than another. The only one that doesn't look like it so much is lean portfolio. Looks like it's 1 dimension, but each of these is actually a dimension. They just happen to squish it into one diagram. The others are more clearly separated. But in all cases, there are 3 dimensions, 21 total, 7 competencies. And if you think about it, then that's what SAFe is trying to help you achieve. They're trying to help you achieve business agility. They think that these 7 competencies are how you do it. And they think everything else on here is the nitty gritty to help you achieve each of those competencies. So there you have it. There's my intro to SAFe using 6.0. I have no idea if this will be as well received as a 5.1, but hopefully you guys got a lot of value out of this and are ready to learn more about SAFe in your training classes. My name is Anthony Crain with Pocket Coach. Oh, and now I have to stop my recording. Eventually. There it is.